Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to DingoTalk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is DingoTalk. My guest this week is the head football coach of the newly formed Schreiner University football program, Coach Keith Allen. Before we get to Coach Keith Allen's story, we need to tell you a little bit about Schreiner University. Schreiner is located in Kerrville, Texas. They've got 1,105 students. There's an 85% acceptance rate and a 46% graduation rate. It's $39,266 before aid. It's $23,048 after aid. The top three majors are nursing, kinesiology and exercise science, and psychology. Again, as I tell you every week, talk to your guidance counselor, talk to your coaches recruiting you, talk to your parents, but at the end of the day, make your decision in a place that you think is best for you. If you think Schreiner is the best place for you, then check them out on their website. Now, it's Coach Allen's story. So Coach Allen has he's from Oklahoma. He played at Oklahoma, coached at Oklahoma as a TA and as a student assistant, and has now made his way to Schreiner University, named the head football coach in February of 2025. It's not my job to tell you Coach Allen's story. It's his. So, without further ado, this is Coach Allen. What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest this week is the head football coach of Schreiner University, Coach Keith Allen. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Oh, I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear, obviously, new program. We're building from the ground up, but we got to do this the same way we do every week. I got to throw you in the time machine real quick. We're going to take you back to 1994. And how does a kid from Tulsa, Oklahoma, find himself in Oklahoma?
So, graduated high school, Tulsa Union, 1992. Was trying to be a walk-on at the University of Oklahoma back when it was unlimited numbers and all that. And back when walk-ons were a thing. So my sophomore year, they came up with the new rule that you could only have 105 during the summer. And they'd asked me if I wanted to student coach instead of be a player. And I'm sitting there going, so I get coaching gear, and I don't have to block, an all Big 8 Mike linebacker in practice every day. And I'm like, I will do that. So I ended up being a student coach at OU for a couple of years. And then when I graduated with my degree in civil engineering, I was actually on my way to go to Louisiana Tech to be a GA there. And then OU came back and offered me the GA job at OU. So I stayed at OU 2 more years. And then, did the college coaching thing for a long time. I went to Northeast Louisiana. It's called Louisiana Monroe now. Mm-hmm. From there, I went to TCU with Dennis Franchioni's staff. From there, I went to be a coordinator at a small D2 school, Quincy, Illinois. Then from there, I got to be the special teams coordinator at San Jose State. From there, I had an opportunity to be a head coach. So I went back to Division II so I could be a head coach at Southwest Baptist University. Mm-hmm. Then my son became a first grader, a kindergartner. So we moved to Florida so I could take over a program, a high school in Florida. And not have to recruit so I could actually be around my son. Mm-hmm. And then his 8th grade year going to 9th grade year, my wife, of all people, she got her doctorate and had an opportunity to move to Houston, Texas. And she's from Dallas, and I'm obviously from Oklahoma. So I was like, hey, I'll take a back seat and let you do your thing. So we moved to Houston and in the summer. So as you know, for football coaches, that's not a good time to do a move. Then I found a job at Klein High School. So I worked there the last 4 years, was the offensive coordinator this past season. And then in January, Schreiner University came open. And, it's a school I didn't even know the name of. I didn't know it existed, and I didn't even know where Kerrville was. But I had a buddy call me and say, are you interested? I said, yeah, absolutely. I'd always go back to college to run my own program. And, so there we are. And that's how we got where we're at.
So let's talk about that process for a little bit. Now, I've had a lot of coaches on that talk about, when you step into a head coaching position, a lot of the conversation isn't really about football. It's about recruiting and what you're going to do in the community, what the academic side of things is going to look like, all that. What is it like when you're starting from the ground up? What's the conversation like with the administration?
It's the same conversation. It's sending them and showing them the vision you have. Fortunately, I've run I've run two different programs, but one college program, and it's necessarily not from the ground up, but usually when you take over a losing program, there's a lot of rebuilding going on, a lot of reculturing, a lot of restructuring, just how everything's done. So this job's actually, in one essence, a little bit different, but maybe a little bit easier because I don't have to purge the system. We're working on the foundation that hasn't been walked on yet, so we get to establish that. Usually, when you take over a program, especially a program that doesn't know how to win, you have to do a lot of house cleaning. You have to do a lot of fixing the foundation, and recasting the vision to reset the vision to everybody that's used to the ways it was before you got there. Whereas now at Schreiner, they have nothing to go by.
Right.
The administration really didn't know a lot about football. So when I came in, I shared with them, this is what we've done in the past. This is the structure we have. This is the plan we're going to move forward with. And, they were very supportive. The community was very supportive. And, I told the board of trustees, I probably vetted this place more than they were vetting me for the job because, I was fine where I was at. I was making fine money. We didn't have to move and all that stuff, but it intrigued me to start a program up. And I felt like, and that's what I told him, I wouldn't have taken the job if I didn't feel like I wasn't going to have the support from the community and the administration and the university. Because I told him, I know what it's going to take. I know how hard I'm going to have to work personally to get this thing going. And I'm not going to do that and hit my head against the wall day in and day out because you guys don't see and share the same vision.
And along with that, obviously recruiting in the state of Texas, there's a lot of football, a lot of very good football played there.
Right.
What is for you guys? What is the immediate goal? Is it a 30-minute radius of you guys? Is it an hour radius? What are you looking at as your recruiting pool?
No, you go recruit the whole state. If you have good relationships, you attack where you know. So my coordinators are former head high school coaches. One was in Houston for the last 15 years. One was actually in Kerrville. So we're going to go recruit the areas we know, the coaches we know. The day I got announced head coach, again, I have pretty strong ties in the state. I have a lot of connections with college coaches, the FBS guys in the state because I worked with some of them. The head coach at TCU and I actually worked together at Northeast Louisiana. The head coach at Rio Grande Valley was a player for us at TCU. The director of football operations at SMU was actually an FCA camp when I was that helped us when I was coaching in the high school in Florida. So I have connections pretty quick out there. I knew the DFO played for me at SM Houston, but they just left. So I had the connection. So once I got hired, I was able to send an email out to all 1,100 high school coaches that day, just to let them know who I was, and we were still looking for class of 2025 kids. And the high school coaches did a fantastic job of getting back with us because they're trying to get their kids to play somewhere. And with the transfer portal and the way things are, the high school student athletes getting later and later and later in the recruiting process. So Division III is a great opportunity for a lot of these kids to showcase their talent and get on the field, right? And 7 years ago, juniors were getting offered by FBS programs, immediately, right? And nowadays, it's only the kids that pass that door frame test. And what I mean by that is when they walk through a door, they hit all three parts of the door frame. Those are the kids getting offered nowadays. So there's a lot of great athletes. There's a lot of well-coached kids that have that grit, determination, and just that chip on their shoulder that we're looking for. To put this in perspective, when I got hired, I had a list of about 50 names to go by. So I've got 50 commits signed. You know what I mean by Division III. They paid their deposits. Yeah. And I've got a recruiting weekend. I've got an unsigned senior day this Saturday. And this is late now. but I got hired late. But I have over 240 kids signed up to come to this thing this Saturday.
Wow.
For the rest of my spots that I have for 2025. So
Now, what
what we're offering is an opportunity. That's what we're offering.
What is the for you? Because I've again with the coaches that I've talked to, some guys that it's a numbers game, and obviously when you're starting a program, it's a numbers game. But what is the goal for the class of 2025 so that when we get to 2026, it's ready to go and all balls to the wall type?
So our plan was, I believe, between that 60 to 80 starting fall camp, closer to 80, but having a solid roster of 60 when you're rolling through the season for year one, because that's manageable and that's going to give those kids a lot of opportunities to play. And then, the next year you're probably going to try to sign the same number, right?
Right.
And then I believe that the Division III model and the enrollment-driven Division II model is 120 is about the number you want to be at. If you're over 120, I kind of think you're doing it more for financial reasons than for trying to develop a football program. Because there's 3 or 4 programs in the state of Texas that carry a roster of 200. And my question would be, how much coaching is that number 170 guy getting?
Right.
So I gotta feel good about my program, and I'm going to do it the way I feel great about. Those guys probably that do that are doing a great job and have a plan. I just, that's not where we're at. It's not what I want to be. So.
Now, Coach, talk to us about what are you looking for in a Schreiner athlete? What are we looking for to bring a guy? I mean, and let me clarify that question because I sometimes get ahead of myself. Obviously, the kid's got to be able to play ball. It's not you're not just bringing in Johnny because Johnny's a really nice kid and he'll do a great job. No, he got to be able to play some football. But what are you looking for? What are those core values that this program is going to be defined by?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we tell families this all the time. We're glad your son's a great student and a great kid, but we're not going to recruit them unless they're talented first and foremost, right? They're not going to pass the next level if they can't play the game, right, at a high level for us. So obviously talent and fitting in a specific need. But what we're looking for is that tough kid. Our core values are this has been since 2008 everywhere I've been. TP Dub, tough people win. So we're looking for that tough kid, that gritty kid that, maybe he's a little bit too short, maybe it's a little bit too slow, but is a really still solid football player and can do those things. And, one of the other things we do is I'm not into the kids that like the sizzle and the window dressing. I want kids that are core value kids that are just foundation kids. Like, are you more about the sizzle or are you more about the steak? Because if you're worried about the sizzle, you're not going to fit me because I don't care about that stuff. Like, Coach, are we going to have a light show and cool jerseys? No, I don't even have jerseys on yet. We just ordered them. We don't have jerseys. So if you're looking for a photo shoot on visit day, we ain't it.
Right.
I talk about there's 2 types of horses. There's a show horse and a workhorse. And the funny thing is, the show horse can never do the work, right? A show horse can never go to be a workhorse. But a workhorse, you can clean it up and it can become a show horse. So we need workhorses is what we need. We don't need a lot of those glitz and glamour kids that's what they're worried about. They're worried about the window dressing and not the foundation. They're worried about the sizzle, not the steak. And in today's society, you have a lot of kids that want to be Instagram famous or X famous or whatever it's called. They want to post their offers, but they don't really care about doing the work. And that you're not going to work well with us because that's not what we're about. We're blue collar. The Bible verse we go by, some tough people win, but the Bible verse we go by is 2 Thessalonians 3:10. And it paraphrases and says this: if one is unwilling to work, he shall not eat. So that's kind of what we preface this thing on. If one is unwilling to work, he shouldn't eat. So earn it. So basically, Scripture tells you earn it. And, that's the kind of kid we want. So I told those coaches, if your kid's been told by somebody else he's a little too short, a little too slow, but he's a player and he's making plays and he can back it up, you don't have to look too much further than us because, we're right on that cusp in Texas. We're not too far from Austin, San Antonio, and we're the best bet in the West Texas. So, we're looking for those hill country tough type kids to kind of fit where we're at.
Now, tell us a little bit more about Schreiner, because again, before you and I started to kind of go back and forth on getting you on the show, I saw it pop up. I have a friend that's from Texas. I asked him. He goes, "They're in a gray area, but I don't know anything about them." So, what can you tell us about the university?
Well, like I told you, January 17th. I've never heard of it. So when I got on campus, what intrigued me was I've worked small colleges before, so we have an enrollment of 1,300. We're in a smaller town, not a tiny town, but we're in a bigger town in the area, about 26,000 people. Salt of the earth people. It's almost like the time clock went back a little bit. It's a slower pace. So sometimes when to get stuff done in a fast way is kind of frustrating. But the town itself is a wonderful town. Everybody's super nice. We're right off the Guadalupe River. There's about 8,000 deer on our campus. So if you like to look at deer, they're everywhere. But when you get into the school, it's Schreiner University is a Presbyterian school, which means it's faith-based, but it's not down your throat faith-based. We have aviation. We have business. We have nursing. We are number 3 in the state of Texas for people with learning disabilities. So all of our students have 5 hours of one-on-one or 5 hours of work with our Success Center and 3 hours of one-on-one work with a Success Center person. I've never been at a university that has 3 hours of one-on-one for everybody on campus.
No.
So those things are amazing. Believe it or not, we're number 17 or 18 in the nation in best dorms. So didn't know that. So when they offered me the job, my wife and son and I, we went like undercover boss and did an admissions tour as a family. And we were amazed by a lot of those things. My son's a senior in high school, and I thought he was going to another school. And after the visit, he's like, "Dad, I think I want to come here." So
wow.
It's like, all right, buddy, let's do it.
Now,
But
Coach,
that's a little bit about the school.
And obviously, there's a lot of moving parts going on in Division III right now. We had playoff expansion last year. We had the addition of up to 18 iPads, which I guess that would be the next question for me is, are you planning on utilizing the iPads on the sideline? And I got to imagine you're not going to use 18 of them.
No, I wish we had 18 people. So next year, I'm not too worried about sideline technology because we're playing that, the Renegade or developmental season. So I've got 6 games scheduled, and I've got a game scheduled for a team in Mexico. Okay. We're not crossing the border, but we're going to play right there close. But yeah, just like we did in Texas in the high schools, we had technology in the press box there, and there's some advantages to it, but my 2 coordinators both have 15 years plus experience as head coaches in the state of Texas. Me and the coordinators combined have over 500 games of head coaching experience and over 300 wins. So we've seen a lot of football. So the technology helps a lot of those younger coaches that haven't seen as much. But we'll utilize it because, we're going to have graduate assistants and whatnot as well. So, again, the things that we have to fund for and take care of, but that's a 2026 thing, but we're definitely going to take care of that. You got to take advantage of whatever the rules are they're going to give you in the game. You better understand the rules and play by those rules so you can utilize them.
Right. And you talked about, obviously 2026 is where you're going to, where everything jumps off from. What is that scheduling like? Because obviously you guys are going to be a member of the SCAC, so there's 5 games built in right there, correct?
Well, we changed. We're in the ASC now, so we're with the big boys. We're with Mary Hardin Baylor, Hardin Simmons, Howard Payne, and East Texas Baptist. So McMurray and us joined about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay. So
2026, we'll have that.
What goes in non-conference wise? What goes in? Is there have those conversations for you? Have you started reaching out to other coaches, Division III coaches?
Yeah, I've got 3 games already scheduled for 26, 27. a lot of the SCAC schools, or because they're in the same end, they're back in with their conference schedule. So weeks 1 through 4, weeks 1 through 5.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working with those guys, so I've got 3 of those games scheduled, and we'll finalize the next 2 probably before May.
Now, a lot of the conversations I've had is that's kind of a difficult. That's kind of one of the bigger difficult things a head coach got to go through when, week 1, everybody's kind of open. Week 2, it gets a little more difficult. Week 3, it gets a little bit more difficult. Have you run into any difficulties with your scheduling, or because you guys are kind of regional right there, has it become a little easier?
I'm still 2 games short.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, so I've got 8. And, I got a week 2 and I believe a week 4 or 5 still open. It's just, how I can get them. Those are a little, it's getting a little bit tougher, but, I'm not ready to give up on it just yet. So, it's pretty early still. We have some wiggle room to travel if we need to and things like that.
And then, Coach, the other big one that came down for this past season and moving forward was the expansion of the playoffs. Do you think that was a good move on at the Division III level when we were only, I think, at like 19% of the teams were getting in before the expansion?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of giving opportunities that the first round, so like in Division II, when I was Division II, we were at 24 teams, right? Mm-hmm. So you had those play-in games to get to the 16. We didn't do the 32 for whatever reason, but they did the 6 per regions, and you had the play-in games. And I'm a proponent of give these kids an opportunity. Right. You're asking, especially at Division III, Division II, and FCS, you already got it branched out, so you're only really adding 1 more week to the length of the season for the playoff teams. And you know what? Last time I checked, if you've made it that far, you've earned a play over finals and into the winter break. And right. Those kids will be fine with it.
So talking a little bit more about you guys as a program, I probably should have asked you this from the jump, and you did answer it a little bit. The idea of building your own program with a foundation that's untouched. Was that the only thing that drew you in?
Oh, there's lots of things when you choose a job, location. Kerrville's probably one of the most beautiful places in the country. Mm-hmm. The people are super, super nice. Our administration, I felt like they're 100% behind us. I've met with everybody in our community and the support you have. So when you take a job, you're looking for the fit, right? So yeah, obviously building a program from the ground up is exciting. I believe, God put you on this earth to be a builder of men, builder of families. Might as well be a builder of a program. And, but the location matters, right? My wife loves the location, so that's a win. The community support, that's a win. I love the university that we have. I love the feel about it. I've worked at 7 different universities, and they all have a different feel, right?
Right.
And some of those feels aren't great or necessarily conducive for certain things. Like we're not conducive to people who just want to go party, right? We're not conducive to people that want to have 100,000 people in the stadium. That's not what we're going to be about. So it's got to be the right fit it's what I tell the recruits. It's got to be the right fit on a multitude of facets. But I'd always rather be in charge than not. I believe organizational skills is one of my big pluses, and being able to handle egos is a big plus. And this was another opportunity to do it in a different venue. So there's a lot of things you look at. And just like I tell the kids, the five fits I talk to recruits about, and I always tell them, and this is everywhere I've ever been when I've been in charge. The 5 fits are: it's got to be a right fit spiritually, socially, academically, athletically, and financially. So it's right. The same with coaches, minus maybe the academically part, right? So I'm not taking any classes, so I don't really care about that anymore. But I care about is this a good fit for my kids? Are they being conducive to them? So.
Mm-hmm. Now, Coach, you've talked about how you've gone through the high school ranks, you've done the Division I coaching, you've done Division II coaching. Now coming into the Division III level, what's the significance of Division III when it comes to the student athletes and the opportunities that are given Because, and I asked that question because, we have a lot of people. It's glorified intramurals. It's you're kind of out of your mind because you're not making NIL money and you're not doing this, you're not doing that. What's for you as a Division III coach? What's the significance?
Well, here's the deal. There's 762 universities that play four-year college football. Okay. So we already know the top 100 schools or those FBS programs that are going to do revenue sharing or going to do those type of things, have big time NIL deals. And, kids are going to be driving around in $250,000 vehicles and things like that. But there's still a place for kids who just love the game. And this is an opportunity for those kids, because here's what's going to happen after high school for all of us, right? We're all going to have to work. Mm-hmm. Eventually, after high school, we're all going to have a job. We're all going to have to make some sort of income. But you're not going to be able to play football the rest of your life. But you're going to be able to work, right? So if it's important enough, you'll find out of those 762 schools that play four-year football, you can find a perfect fit. And the Division III model allows you to actually enjoy your college experience as well, right? Because we're not going to grind year round. Now, we're going to grind and we're going to get after it and we're going to demand excellence in everything we do. But my gosh, if you want to go play intramurals in the spring, man, my only requirement is win, right? Don't lose. If you want to go play another sport, do it. Because, we're not paying your way. Mm-hmm. So we got to treat it as such. Now, we can treat it as they love the game, and the game is a very important game for them, but we don't have to grind year-round with them. I know some D3 schools do. Some D3 schools treat it just like FBS, and that's awesome. But my deal is, if you're paying to go to college, you should enjoy the college experience.
Right.
And I think that's what the D3 model offers. It offers that student to get the college experience. Because I'll be honest, when I was at OU, even if I was a walk-on or a student coach, all I did was football in my engineering classes. That was it. Like, I couldn't tell you anything else that went on that campus. But I enjoyed it, and that's what I wanted to do. No problem with that, right? But, I also had some other things going with the financial aid. But here, if they want to play football and still be a student, we're going to demand excellence in season. That's not going to change for any school, I don't think. But when the season's over, hey, be a student. Here's our workout program. Here's some stuff you can do, but, enjoy it. Because in 4 years, guess what? You're going to have to go to work. Because at our level, and even Division II, and a lot of FCS, we're not going to the NFL. We're not making money professionally at this sport anymore. So why make it miserable for 4 years and then they go to get a job?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what I see as Division III. And actually, the recruiting for me thus far has been a little bit easier, because Division II is probably the hardest to recruit, just because everybody's scholarship's different. You have a salary cap in Division II, right? Right. So I was fully funded, so I had 36 equivalencies that I had to build a roster with 36 equivalencies. So I had to have a roster of about 100, right? Mm-hmm. And I had to give out money based on what I thought you could do. So we had it was a negotiation. Every student athlete was a negotiation, right?
Wow.
I mean, we simplified it because we had some base concepts. But Division II, everybody's scholarship in theory could be totally different.
I don't think I knew that.
30. So, it's 36 equivalencies, and you can break them up however you want. So FCS, I don't know if they've changed or not now, but I believe it was 63. And you could split some of them, but you could only have 85 on 8 or 80 on 8. I'd have to double check the rules on that. It's been a while. Mm-hmm. And then when I was at FBS, we had 85 and they were all the same. So the biggest thing that's changed at the higher level is recruiting is no longer relational or transformational. It is 100% transaction.
Right.
It is no longer, I have a great relationship with Coach Allen, and the facilities at San Jose State and San Diego State are about the same, and I like Coach Allen better. It's San Diego State's going to pay me an NIL of $150,000, and San Jose is only going to give me $75,000. I love Coach Allen, but I'm going to take the $150,000, right? So
right.
FBS has become way more of a business model, if that makes any sense. So
yeah.
Division III, I can sit there in front of a parent of everybody and say, this is the model. This is what it looks like.
Yeah, that's all right, Coach. One last question about Schreiner, and then we're going to the Fast Five. But my last question is, what's the message? What's the message for the fan base? What's the message for Division III? What should they know about Schreiner come 2026?
All right, we're coming to be competitive day one. We're not taking a backseat to anybody, and we may take our lumps along the way, but we're gonna, what you're gonna see is a team that's going to be competing. You're going to see a team that's going to fight hard and be a team. We're coming to get it, and we're going to try to do our best from day one to be the best team we can be as fast as we can be. Kind of like the movie The Bandit, Smoking the Bandit. We got a long way to go and a short time to get there. Eastbound and down. So that's what we're doing right now.
You're just not bootlegging Coors Light across state lines.
No. Exactly.
All right. So the Fast Five, here's how it works. I'm going to give you 5 questions. They have to do with you, not to do with football.
Okay.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Australia, because it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever lived, or I've visited, I should say.
Okay. I've never been, but I've heard they got big spiders, and that kind of checks me out.
Oh, they got so many poisonous. You got to sign some waivers when you go some places. So many poisonous animals.
What's the most important lesson thus far you've learned over your career?
You get to make your own choices, but you're responsible for those choices and the consequences of your choices. So, once you realize that in your life, that there's nobody to blame but yourself, it puts it all back on you no matter what. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes it a better life when it's your responsibility to be, to have your life the way you want it. So you are responsible for your choices and your consequences.
If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
I guess I'd be a civil engineer. With what my degree was what my degree's in.
What's the best compliment you've ever received?
The best compliment I've ever received. How did you get your wife to marry you?
And the answer?
No, good recruiter. No, probably honestly, the best award I ever got was when we were state semifinals. We lost in the state championship in Florida, and I won the state Florida Coach of the Year. So out of 861 coaches, I won Coach of the Year out of all of them. And usually it's somebody who wins a state championship that gets that award, right?
Right.
And we went 14-2 that year, and the committee told me we won that award because, number one, we lost to Chaminade Madonna in the state championship, and they had like 14 kids with FBS offers, and we didn't have anybody on our team with any offers. But they said we went 14-2. And if you looked at our schedule and you looked at both teams pregame, we'd have probably been predicted to be 2-14 or 2-12. I mean, we went 12-2, so they said we'd probably be 2-12, and that's why we won. So it's funny. I got Coach of the Year award for that, but it's really our kids. But I took that as the best compliment in my coaching career I've ever gotten because our kids outplayed what people thought they could.
Right.
So I thought that was really cool.
And
probably the coolest compliment.
On the other side of compliments, it's the best insult you've ever gotten.
Yeah.
And being a football coach, I'm sure you've heard things yelled.
I got not really a bad one. I got a funny story I'll share. That's kind of an insult. So I was at Southwest Baptist University, and we won a game against Missouri Southern. We probably shouldn't have won. But anyway, their fans, again, Southwest Baptist University, their fans reported to our school that I cussed on the sideline. And so I had a meeting now. You'll get a kick out of this. I had a meeting with our president, our athletic director, our dean of students. And the president is funny now. He pulls out this letter. I'm not going to say exactly what it said, but he said, Coach Allen, you said, what the F are you doing? Or something like, what the F are you doing? He goes, did you say that? And I was like, well, Dr. Taylor, that really sounds like something I could have said. And he goes, well, why did you say it? And I go, were you not at the game? and he started laughing. So I knew I was okay. But I mean, to get written up or whatever, get sent to the principal's office because of my language on a at a game. And it was, I dropped it, apparently I we still don't know if we did or didn't, but I dropped an F-bomb. No, but I mean, I didn't touch a kid. I didn't berate a kid. I didn't grab a face mask.
But you used the 4-letter word and everybody.
Oh yeah. So no, I don't know. I don't really I don't remember insults. I try to not let those things bother me because, if you worry about your insults, you won't get very far in life. Because I usually just say, take a number. If you got a problem with me, just take a number. Because there's a line behind me somewhere that's got a problem with me.
Yeah, there's a line. We'll get to you as your number gets called.
Yeah, you just get in the line. We'll get to you when we get to you.
Coach, the last question I ask everybody, was there a question that you were expecting from me? And if so, how would you have answered it?
No, I mean, you pretty much asked all the questions I would have expected. The insult question I wasn't ready for. I never even thought about that one. You could have asked something about what's something you learned, what's the worst decision you ever made as a coach or something like that. I have good answers for that one too, but no, I think you did a great job. You've done this a lot of times. You know what to ask. So
well, Coach, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time to sit down with us. We're going to be keeping an eye on you going into 2026. For those of you sticking around, we'll be right back, Chuckleheads.
Government officials insist that this is an isolated incident. We will continue to keep you informed as this story unfolds. That's part of the deep dead. Scientists have begun studying the virus.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @DingoTalk.